class, each student will have, at this point, 2 PCs. Towards the end of this, later on, when we're trying to do 2 ESXi boxes, we'll have 3 PCs. So right now, you're going to use 1 PC for management. Right? This is where you will run your vSphere client, software client piece, or your web client. We're going to take another PC. It's going to be our hypervisor. Right? So I gave you guys a USB drive. I gave you a NIC. You will put your NIC in this guy. You will turn it on. You will boot into BIOS. You will make sure the CPU settings are set for the virtualization. The settings are on the sheet I gave you. You will turn off drive 1. You will turn on drive 3. In future weeks, we can potentially, depending on how things boot, if it boots with both drives turned on, we can leave both drives turned on, so that way we can just hit F12 and pick the drive we want to boot. But you need to make sure before you leave that your computer boots back into Windows, because I don't like going around and fixing all your computers every week because it booted into the hypervisor. I don't like when Mr. Brown's like, tell your guys, blah, 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 because it's booting into the hypervisor, blah, blah, blah. It makes us look bad. It makes us look stupid. Do you guys like looking stupid? I don't. That's why I don't wear sweatpants every day.
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding. I don't even own sweatpants. All right, so that's our 2 boxes. We're going to connect to this guy you can leave in the hack network. All right. This guy you're going to connect to the RichNet, the 243 VLAN. The first 12 ports on my gig switch back there, this labeled 220 switch, I think. I don't know. It should say RichNet, but I think it says 220 switch. The first 12 ports are in VLAN 243. So I gave you the IP addresses to use in that, right? Your vCenter server runs on a hypervisor I have running, KVM, right? It's also on the RichNet. So how are we going to get all this stuff connected together and make it all work? Actually, it's on the 240. So how are we going to connect all this stuff and make it together? This stuff all exists in the RichNet. This exists in the hack network. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to connect. I forgot. I was going to put something else in there. We're going to connect into the VPN I have on the RichNet so we can connect to our vCenter server. We'll do our management across that VPN. I'll show you guys how to connect to that in a couple minutes with the once I get this card out of the way so you can actually see what's going on. So we'll connect to the VPN to the RichNet to the CNT server, which gives us access to the RichNet. So now over here when I'm connected to the VPN, I can open my browser and type in the private IP of my hypervisor, 192.168.240.whatever, and connect to that in the browser. So that is how we're going to connect everything together. We're going to end up with 2 NICs in our hypervisors, right? The onboard NIC and then the second NIC we're adding. In previous semesters, when you would try to boot the hypervisor to install it, it would be like, there's no supported network interfaces. Because it turns out that the onboard NICs in our machines aren't supported by default through the hypervisor. Well, I finally got around this time to figure out a way to get around that, and that's why we're using a custom ISO. I have updated the ISO for the ESXi hypervisor to include the driver for our onboard NICs. So we'll be able to have 2 NICs this semester. The first, the onboard NIC is the one we'll plug into the 243 network for now. The second NIC we don't really need to plug in yet. So you can just not use that one for now, but I want to go ahead and get it in there. We'll use that later on when we get to the networking chapters. So let me see if I can get this